Ginger Ale here from Tap and Sec Podcast with another deck tech. Actually, no, I have had one more deck tech. I had that mono red budget. Well, this is not a moto deck. This is one I'm playing in real life, as you can tell by all the red lettering on the cards that I don't own. So, first of all, gotta give credit to JD Emmerich for sending me this list. We talked about it a little bit. He gave me a rundown. He's played it in Cincinnati, SCG Cincinnati, and SCG Indianapolis, and got 32nd in one and 34th or 36th in the other one. I don't know what this is. Go away. So he's had a lot of success with it. He's a phenomenal deck builder, and I respect him a lot. So I started picking it up. I've played this deck for about a month. And I've really enjoyed it and think it is a solid list, and have not found a lot of I really haven't found any like weak spots in it. Something by weak spot I mean something that I need to take out and must put in something else. Like yeah, there's gonna be cards that are gonna be dead against certain matchups or whatnot, but like that happens in every deck, unless you're playing like Callblade when it was in standard or whatever. But I kind of nicknamed the deck Value Junk, because junk represents like the three color combination. And as I go through this, I don't message me again. Yeah, a lot of value, and we'll get into that more as I break down some of the stuff. But it is. It's not Reanimator, it's not mid range, it's just junk value. So, I guess we'll just start with the lands. They got two Caverns main. It's good with against the blue white flash stuff. The America decks, any type of bank control. It usually says Angel if I draw the first one. It's almost always Angel, given Restoration Angel, Sigarda, and Angel of Serenity. Those are huge key components of how, the engine of the deck. Therefore, I need them to resolve. And if I draw the second one, it's probably gonna be Beast, but not always. Sometimes it's human because Disciple and Pilgrim are both human. And every now and then I have to name Healer just to get him down on turn 3. But yeah, it's the standard green white lands, a couple isolated chapels, 3 overgrown tomb, 3 woodland cemetery, some forests, and 2 Gavanies, which have done a lot of work. I think people underestimate the land quite a bit in the matchup, and when I can, Pilgrim on turn 1, Healer on turn 2, and I don't know, Resto on 3, and then start like townshipping. The next turn, that gets out of hand really fast, and it's not a very uncommon sequence of plays. So so the lands are solid. I also have the 2 Caverns in the sideboard for some certain matchups, which I guess we'll talk about later. But for Avacyn, the only 1 drop, gets some acceleration. Right next to it, the Farseeks, actually probably one of my favorite cards in the whole deck, because just Farseek with the shock lands is just better than you can imagine. Not worrying about your land base that much, and I mean honestly, it's gonna get better with Gatecrash comes out when we get like I could put Godless Shrine in the place of Isolated Chapel. It's just gonna get ridiculous. Farseek's awesome. Abrupt Decay, something I was talking to JD. I was like, why is this card in there? Does it kill anything? Well, it's definitely one of those cards I'm just going to recommend you play. And then if you don't think it kills anything, then, like, take it out. But I was skeptical. He said just try it. So I did. And it kills a lot of shit. A lot of shit. I mean, Rakdos Kirun in the Jund matchup's fine in game 1. Usually side him out against that in game 2. But killing stuff like that, killing pikes, killing any, like, little annoying enchantments, blowing up O-rings or detention spheres. The second week I played this, I went against a blue-white Delver without Delver. I guess blue-white. It's turned into blue-white Flash, but it was kind of that deck before it was coined. But he, I caverned out my second Thragtusk, and it was game one, and he detention sphered my Thragtusk, and then EOT I blasted it with abrupt decay, and he was just like, "Who fucking plays that card?" And I was like, well, me. So, die, because it was ridiculous getting 10 more life and having 16 power on the board just from the Thragtusk stuff, which I had more on the board, but it's phenomenal. Warp Decay is really awesome, especially in O-Ring Wars. Speaking of that, 3 O-Rings, great for taking out Planeswalkers. Sometimes you need to get an Aristocrat with it, or a Messenger is a pretty decent target. It's usually for Planeswalkers, because sometimes this deck has a little bit of trouble getting rid of early Planeswalkers. It's probably my best solution against Tamiyo, if I really even need to worry about her, which I usually don't. For Centaur Healer, awesome against the aggro matchups. Gains a lot of value. Healer into Resto Angels, great. Restoration Angel doesn't really need a lot of explanation. It's phenomenal with Healer, Thragtusk. It doesn't hit any of the other angels, but it has so much value, and like you just can't not play it. It doesn't like touch every creature that's in the deck, because it can't bounce angels, but a lot of times it just doesn't need to. There's a lot of 3-power creatures in the format, or less, so her 4 on her butt is very, very, very helpful. But that's something you probably already know. So on to the more interesting cards. Disciple of Bolas is the engine that makes this deck be well oiled. That's probably he's the oil. The thing is, when you start playing the deck, you can't worry about keeping your board presence. Like, you don't want 1,000 dudes. Like, when you have a Bolas, get rid of your Thragtusk, draw 5, gain 5. Sacrifice your healer, draw 3, gain 3. It's even okay to just blink in a Restoration Angel, blinking Disciple of Bolas, and sacking the Restoration Angel to gain 3 and draw 3. Like, the engine is so ridiculous. It just you out card advantage them so often, and it's not something that this color combination does. Often, or if often, very well, and Disciple of Bolas is definitely what it needs to get ahead of a lot of decks. I've played it against control, varieties of control, and I would have more cards in them most of the game, just from Bolas. Also, something that people don't remove when he's on the board, because he's like a 2/1. So I guess I should be putting my cursor on these. Not something people really worry about, so a lot of times he stays on the board when you get to Restoration Angel him and stuff, and use him again, or you play a Thragtusk, then a Restoration Angel right after, and stack the Thragtusk and do all the shenanigans. So that's, God, he's so good. So good. The only reason he's not at 3, and I think JD had him at 3 for a little while, and he went down to 2, and he really liked it there, and that's where I've tried it at. Was there is some times where I want another Bolas, but at the same time, there's some games where like he doesn't have a target. I don't run a massive amount of creatures, and most of them don't come out before Bolas. So usually, you're gonna get him toward later in the game, or you're gonna use him later in the game. You probably want to drop a Thragtusk or a Sigarda first. So yeah, the 2 Severs, they have been doing some work. There's sometimes I had the Bolas combo going, just drawing cards, trying to hit a Sever, and I had to draw like 25 cards to get the Sever I needed to get rid of some Lingering Souls tokens. But like, this card is great. The flashback is easy to get with with the little bit of ramp in here, and all the stalling. There's so much life gain. I've ended a game 3 at 68 life, just and you don't really even have to try. It just happens because most of the time you just want to draw cards and you just happen to be gaining life. A lot of people just want to blow their brains out when they play me, or play this deck, not me. The Unburial Rites are also give value to what you sack with Bolas. So putting things in your yard is fine, because you can get them back with rights. You know, bolusing a Thragtusk and then getting it back next turn is just fine. You know, extra life. You can sack it again with a Restoration Angel on a Bolus on a Thragtusk again. Also, it puts some good targets for Angel of Serenity. Angel is not in here to Unburial Rites. That's not the goal. I'm not trying to get it in the graveyard to Unburial Rites it. I want to cast her, and then, you know, if she dies, I have this option. But Rites is more for these 4 and 5 drops, for this value and for this engine. It's what it's for. It's to keep it going. Sigarda, probably my favorite creature in the whole deck. She does work, and people don't know. People still don't know how good she is. The only thing that takes care of her is pretty much Nighthawk and a Sweeper that's played right now, and Nighthawk is really not that popularly played. The red-black decks have Nighthawks on the side, but Abrupt Decay kills it. A Ring gets rid of it. Like, Sever can get rid of it. I have to. Like, she doesn't even always have to swing. Sometimes just sits there and blocks until I get an Angel or I get my engine going. So she's a big body that they can't touch. Great. I should not have to talk about Thragtusk that much. I think he kind of speaks for himself, and you've probably already heard too much shit about him already. I do like 3. I kind of wish there was a 4th in here, but the 5 drops are kind of heavy, and honestly, I would rather, if I cut anything, it would be a Sigarda. But I think Sigarda is just as good, if not better, than Thragtusk in a lot of matchups. Thragtusk isn't really to like win the game; it's just to stay in the game. She wins games, and she is legendary. I know that, you know, I can't play more than one, but like being able to put her out there, you know, draw, and sit on another one, knowing that whenever they sweep or they get rid of her, you just slam, you know, a 4-turn clock or less on the battlefield. So that's great. Angel Serenity's phenomenal. Like I said before, don't need to rights her. She's not in here for an Unburial Rites target. She's there to cast, and not really that hard to cast. Usually by the time that you've got her in your hand, you've probably drawn into a cavern, so she usually comes down no problem. So onto the sideboard, the 2 extra caverns are for control matchups like Bant, maybe probably against Blue-White Flash. A lot of the matchups where you need Cavernous Souls, you don't need Gavony Township. So it's usually an easy takeout because Gavony Township is good against mid-range decks, you know, making my small threats into big threats. And I mean, putting out that one guy in Gavony, townshipping him in a control matchup is just like not going to get you anywhere. It's good against, you know, board stalls and whatnot. So Deathrite Shaman is Reanimators seem to be like falling out of favor, so these may not. I like these, but there's a lot of matches where you think you're gonna put them in, but they just don't really help that much. You never get to use the first ability to ramp, because I don't use Mulch or Grizzly Salvage, which is what the Reanimator uses it for. But sometimes in grindy matchups like Control, I've thought about putting it in. Sometimes I have tried it in and not drew it. I really like the card. I really like it being 4 because there's not a lot of ways to interact with Reanimation besides like Deathrite. I don't want to put in a card just to deal with graveyards because he does way more than that. This is the only card that like may change soon, just because its rights is kind of falling off a little bit, at least around here. But the Craterhoof Behemoth thing is catching on pretty well, so this may stay in for that. But that deck also casts Craterhoof, so Death Threat's not going to block that. But yeah, and then Smiters. Smiters usually come in for matches where healer is not needed. So, say I go against like a Jund matchup or one with bigger creatures where I don't need to gain life. I just switch out 3 with. I'll take all 4 Centaur healers out and add add 3 of the Luxanon Smiters, and sometimes, according to what matchup, maybe another a Deathrite Shaman or a Selesnya Charm or something like that. But I really like Smiters. I've thought about if Black Red was falling off a little bit, so I thought I may switch Smiters and healers, and then side in healers when I needed them against Mono Red or zombies. But they seem to be picking back up with the Black Red mid range deck that's getting pretty big right now. So I like to keep the healers in. But it was something that I thought about. But yeah, they're for Jund and creature based decks. To trade, it's a good bolus target. I don't care to trade. Against control matchups, it also comes in because I don't really need to gain life with healer. I'd rather have a guy that can't be countered. That's a little bit tougher, packs a little harder punch. Oh, something I forgot to mention about Deathrite Shaman, also really good against Snapcaster. So any Snapcaster based decks like for control, which I kind of mentioned bringing them in against control, it's really good taking out those targets, and it weakens a pike, which is relevant because sometimes 1 or 2 pike swings can kill you. Selesnya Charm comes in against Jund and Reanimator and green white aggro. If it seems to be picking up as well. Anything that goes over 5 power just gets exiled. So their first reanimation target gets exiled, or they Wolfear, Silverheart something. I like it, but they usually exchange with Abrupt Decay. But it's sometimes hard with green white aggro because one of the best ways for me to get rid of Paladin is for me to Abrupt Decay it, even though I want to Oblivion Ring it, but that instant speed, being able to get rid of Pure Steel Paladin is really helpful because he can make anything it pairs up with do a pretty big punch, and sometimes I have to tank some punches early in the game, and he speeds up that clock way too much. And then Terminus comes in against green white aggro, zombies, usually sometimes mono red. I like it against mono red, but sometimes I just don't like taking out what I have, because I have to draw the Terminus, and I have a lot of main deck removal for mono red. Oblivion Ring, Sever, and Decay all hit like all their stuff, or multiple creatures, because they play of lots of 4-ofs. So yeah, there's the deck tech, guys. If I make any big changes, I may do another one. But I have really enjoyed this deck. If you have any suggestions, any comments, any ideas, if you want to tell me that's a fucking awful card choice idea, you can email JD at... No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not going to throw him under the bus. No, you can hit me up if you have any disagreements, or you have some tips to think on. So this has been another Deck Tech. Maybe in the future. Don't quote me yet. I'm working on saving to possibly get a camera or save for a camera. May do some live playtesting videos. It's not really ideal for me to start splitting my collection among Moto and paper, so I'm looking to start doing some playtesting videos similar to probably the ones that you may watch on Star City. I think that's a really good format. It's pretty simple, and I like to be doing that here too, and I like to keep some videos coming up on on this channel since we have moved the cast off of YouTube. So thanks for listening in, guys. Have a fucking awesome day.